Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Keith Andrew Network. That is right, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. As today's episode, it's 919. I'm here with Ann Richardson, a good friend of mine. Let's jump right into it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network, available on YouTube, Facebook, and all social media.
Hi, I'm Ann Richardson. I'm a professional audiobook narrator, and I've just been interviewed by Keith Andrew. Keith has his own network, and his goal is to prove that people with disabilities can do anything they set their minds to. And I support that. I hope you enjoy the interview.
So the first question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you came to do what you do now.
Okay. First of all, thanks for having me as a guest. I'm honored, Keith. I think we've been meeting once a year for 3-4 years now. And I just love being part of your show. So thank you for the honor. Background on me. Wow. When I was young, back in the, I was taking college courses on broadcast journalism. I wanted to be Diane Sawyer. And then I met a boy and I got married and dropped out of college and moved to California. I was in Nebraska, moved to California. And then, you know, when you're just starting out, you take any job that you can get to make ends meet, pay the bills. And so I worked in the pharmaceutical industry as an admin assistant, worked for a veterinarian for a while. I worked in public schools for a while. I had a couple of babies, and then I worked in the automotive industry doing sales on the road. And then 2008 hit, and the economy just took a dump, and my job evaporated. So my husband said, the same boy I left college for, he said, why don't you just think about what direction you want to go? And so I did start to think about what I was doing before I came to California. And I thought, boy, I'm in a different place now. I don't necessarily want to drive into a news station at 3 a.m. and cover a burning apartment complex. That's not something I want to do. And I thought, well, what about radio? And then I decided, for the same reasons, I'd have to start at the bottom, and that probably means working overnight shifts. And it didn't feel like something I wanted to do. So I took a community education course about doing voiceovers, commercials on TV and all that stuff. And the feedback was really, really good. And I didn't trust it. I don't know why we don't trust nice things about ourselves, but I didn't trust it. So I took another community education course at a different college, and I got really good feedback again. And someone suggested that I begin to volunteer for Recording for the Blind and Dyslexic. And it's now known as Learning Ally. And when I began to record there, basically what you do is you narrate textbooks, or back in that time, I was narrating textbooks for students. And I found out that I just loved it. I mean, I really loved it. So to heck with all the commercial voiceover stuff, I wanted to narrate audiobooks. And the rest is history. I just researched as much as I could day in and day out to learn how this industry works. Worked hard to try and find good coaches, because coaching is really important. You need to be trained to do this. And then just worked as hard as I could to make relationships in the industry. And so today this year I will have narrated 300 audiobooks. My boys are grown and moved away. I'm kind of an empty nester. And I now teach other narrators how to break into the industry. And I work for many of the large audiobook publishing businesses today. So that brings you up to speed.
Oh, if you have a empty nest, you can always bring me in to teach me a couple of things.
This is a weird profession, Keith. I'm not sure you would like it. It's very strange. It's not easy.
Well, give us a couple of examples. Why is it strange?
Okay. Because you have to read the book before you begin to narrate it. And if it's a long book, that's going to take you a long time. And in addition to becoming familiar with the story, you have to research every word you don't know how to pronounce. And so there's a lot of work you have to do before you ever step foot inside the booth to record. And you have to have perfect diction. And if you feel like your mouth is dried out some days, you know how sometimes you can have mouth noises when you talk? You can't when you narrate audiobooks.
Wouldn't make it funny.
And the weather. The weather can have a big effect on your narrating as well. In the summer, the temperatures in my recording booth can get close to 100 degrees very quickly. The wintertime is lovely to narrate because I can just open the door and that cold air just rushes in and it's wonderful. Another weird thing about this industry is that you sit alone in a very small enclosed space for hours reading out loud. You also get to play all the characters, which means it's really helpful if you know how to do different accents and dialects. And you also have to have a silent household. And that's been really interesting in the pandemic because when I was narrating before the pandemic, I was all alone in the house. And then the pandemic hit and my husband came home and he's working from home. My son came home from college and attended college courses in the house, and they had to be absolutely quiet. It was difficult for me because anytime they flushed the toilet or opened the mail outside my booth door, I could hear that, and it would come through on my recording, and I would have to stop and back up and start over at that, paragraph again. They couldn't have friends over. They couldn't work in the garage, woodworking or work on cars or anything. No loud music. It was just really awkward for them as well as for me. So we had to do some retrofitting to my booth over the Christmas holiday to make it more soundproof. So, and other things that are weird about this, you don't go out partying the night before you have to record because it makes your voice sound hoarse in the morning. You don't eat certain foods because it makes your stomach growl. Like I can't have salad on days I'm going to record because it sounds like I'm speaking whale. There's a lot of weirdness that goes on with being an audiobook narrator.
No, I can wait. I was doing this because, you said you have to be alone. It's like I'm always alone in my room. And he mentioned being home with the family. He's me, my brother, knocks at the door. My dad stands outside the door, yelling at my brother, Brad, Brad, you didn't ask Brad. And he's just stomping around. Or we have a chime, says garage door. And if anyone watched all my episodes during the years, you hear people knocking at the door, the garage door. It's really freaking obnoxious. But the excuse is like, well, Keith is not making any money, so this is not a real job. But hopefully once it starts making money, everyone can shut the hell up and then let me do what I want to do. So I can definitely relate to those opposites.
I bet you can. Yeah, it's hard.
So next one I want to ask is, are you actually a writer as well?
I've written one published book. It was a romance, and then I wrote a short story that got published in a horror book. I blog, and I have ideas for other books I want to write. I just have no time whatsoever to do it. So I guess they're going to wait until I'm old and retired.
Well, I know we always talk about it off the air, but once I reach 1,000, I would love to work with you and have you write my book.
There are better people out there than me, my friend. I'm not going to say I'm any good. There are other people that are way better at it than I am, and I'd be happy to help you try and find some of them.
I appreciate it because right now, that's my goal. Once I reach 1,000, I'm going to have someone ghostwrite the book. then because everyone who I reached out to, we see these people like on Instagram, Facebook, hey, give me 2 minutes of your time, give me 15 seconds of your time. You want to be on Fox News? You want to be on CNN? You want to be featured on here? And like every time I'm like, why not? It's not going to happen anyway anytime soon. And they always say to me, do you have a book? Do you have a book? You know, a book. Well, I have a talk show about disabilities, how I'm turning myself into an example. And no one wants to hear that. But now, if you have a book, I'm like, fine, I'll write the damn thing. Well, get someone to do it. And you mentioned some earlier, you have to read, and especially if you can't read. So that's the next question I want to ask you. You know, can you do? Well, let me ask you 2 parts. If you can't read, like someone like me, I can read a little bit, but someone who's dyslexic, how can they still be a voice narrator?
I firmly believe that can be overcome. I mean, you yourself know that disabilities can be overcome. I have heard of blind voiceover artists. I do believe I know a few dyslexic voiceover artists. I can't even begin to know how they would do it though, because reading is what this occupation is all about. We're reading out loud so that others who cannot can enjoy the same story that sighted people can read. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
do.
I don't know. I'm sure it can be done. I just can't even imagine how it would be done.
So the other question I want to ask is, as a coach, you are a coach, that you did mention. As a coach, what experience do you have in leading people? But let me add to leading people, normal people and people with disabilities.
I have not had the pleasure of coaching someone with disabilities yet, so I can't speak to that question. Someday I might. I just haven't had that experience yet. As far as other people who take my classes, I coach everybody from all different levels of professionalism in this industry. Some people who haven't even purchased a microphone yet have come to me for coaching, and I try and give them the speech I gave you about the difficulties of it, just to see if that's something they're willing to overcome and if they want to continue. And I've coached professionals too who just needed to brush up on maybe one aspect of their narrating. The thing I find the most helpful is to let them know that it's really a good idea to seek coaching from many different people, because I may say it in a way that doesn't really make sense to you, but the next person you take coaching from may say the same thing in a different way, and then you figure it out. So just like with horses, I used to ride horses a lot. The best way to be a very good horse rider is to ride a bunch of different horses, because then you get to be familiar with all the different personalities and the ways they move. Well, it's kind of the same with taking coaching. Don't coach with just one coach your whole life, because you're never going to grow beyond what they tell you. It's good to get coaching from a lot of different people and to share that. Make sure they know that they're free to go to other coaches as well. Everybody has a different style, and mine may not work for everyone.
No, absolutely. Now, the next 2 questions I want to ask you is, as a voiceover, a narrator, what are your values, and what is the most rewarding part of being a narrator?
Help me understand what you mean by what are my values. My values about what?
That is a good question. Yeah, I just saw it online. I'm like, oh, that's a good question to ask. I mean, values as in, I guess, principles, or what's important to you.
Oh, okay. Honesty, integrity, always giving your best, always meeting deadlines, treating people kindly like you would want to be treated. Yeah, just doing what you say you're going to do, being honest and kind and have integrity. Those are my values. Um, and trying to help the next guy up, I think we're put on this earth to help each other out. And so that also has played a big part in who I am. What was the rest of the question?
I'm sorry about that. What is the most rewarding part of being a narrator?
Oh, I think the most rewarding part about being a narrator is the thought that people who can't read can now enjoy the story. It levels the playing field, and I've volunteered for Learning Ally for years and years, and now I'm volunteering for an organization called Imagination Video Books. And what they do is create audiobooks with verbal descriptions for people who can't see the pictures even. So children get these picture books that they can't enjoy with their eyes, but they hear the narration, and then there's another level of narration that describes what the pictures look like in the book. So that's where I've been volunteering lately. And that's very rewarding to me. I once had a little boy. I had the mother of a little boy who was a member of Learning Ally. He was dyslexic. I think he was in 3rd grade. She came onto Facebook in the Learning Ally group, and she said, I just want to let you all know how important your volunteering is. My little boy came home today, and he was so excited because he was keeping up with the other boys in the class in reading some of the books that they were reading. And even though he couldn't read it with his eyes alone, he would look at it and follow along with his finger on the words and listen to it, the audiobook that we had read for him. He was so happy to finally fit in. And those are the kinds of stories that really make me feel good. They make me feel like I make a difference. I'm helping someone else.
No, absolutely. Actually, this one's a good question to ask. Because you do different voices and for different stories. How do you build a character as a narrator?
Dang, Keith, that's a really good question. When I read the book, I have a notebook. I keep a notebook beside me, and I write down each character's name. And then behind their name, I write every clue that the author has given me as to what kind of person that is, what kind of character that is. So, say, for example, if I have a story about 3 little kids and their talking dog, I'll write the first little kid's name down, and as the story unfolds, the author will say something like, well, this little boy has a lisp, or this little girl speaks with a Southern accent, or the dog sounds like Goofy. And if people react to the character in the story, like say the little girl is afraid of the one child, and then here comes another little kid and he's also afraid of the one child, you kind of get the idea that that child might be a bully or intimidating in some way. So that helps you develop the character in your mind. It's not so much about putting on a different voice for the character as it is about living in their skin, actually becoming that character, and then the voice will follow.
No, I agree. Now, with everything that you accomplished in your career, have you proceeded in your career as you wanted to?
Do you mean, has it gone the way I thought it would go?
Yes. It said proceeded, progressed. I'm sorry. Let me do that again. I was like, when does see? It's like it's proceeded, but progresses. Have you progressed in the career that you wanted to? Like, has it been going as the way you wanted to?
Yes. Yes, it has. And even better. I would have to say that this career has been so interesting. I've worked really, really hard to try and make connections and get work and stay employed and make enough money to make it worthwhile, and treat people well. And the results have been amazing. I'm so happy with where I am. I'm happy that people trust me to narrate their books, that publishers trust me enough to hire me. I'm happy that people trust me to coach them. These things are very profound. I'm touched by the relationships I've made and the progress that I've made. The only thing, and I think I'm not alone in this, is I would love to have won an audio award. That is like the Oscar of audiobooks, is to win an audio award, and they're very coveted, they're very prestigious, and I haven't won one yet, and I would really love to win one, but if I don't, it's okay. I feel like I've had a wonderful time at this career, and I just hope it continues.
Now, out of all the books, what is your book trying to achieve? What is the end message?
That's an odd question. It seems like that's a question you would ask an author.
That's true. Okay. Well, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
I'm not sure how I would answer it.
What about this one? When you finished narrating a book, how hard was it for you to put the characters away? And are they still around?
Wow, that's another really good question. I think that it's impossible to let go of them completely. I think of a little bit of each character still lives inside of me. Some books, it's harder to let them go than others. Some books I've narrated a couple of books about the Holocaust. Those have been really difficult to separate myself from them when the book is done. Very difficult. But yeah, when you become this invested in each project, it's really hard to pull back and just, stop it. When the book is over and, close the book, it doesn't go away. It stays with you for a long time.
Absolutely. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but I do have some brand new ones I want to ask you about. I want to ask you this one first. When I reached out to you, again, I forgot how many times I reached out to you, but you were always nice to be a guest on the show. What made you say yes, and how would you describe it to people out there, Mike? Is he legit? Is he real? Should I give him an opportunity? So what makes you keep coming back to be on the Keith Andrew Network?
Because I believe in you, Keith. It is so exciting for me to see someone pursuing their dreams and not just being sad that it's not happening for them and doing nothing about it. You go out there and you make things happen. And I support that. Follow your dream. And, I wish I could be more involved. I wish I could help you in more ways. I just don't have the bandwidth for it. So the least I can do is do an interview with you now and again and check in with you, see how you're doing. But yes, I said yes because you are a great interviewer. You're personable, you're entertaining. And if this helps you, I'm happy to do it.
Oh, absolutely. So the new one I'll ask you real fast are called Words of Wisdom or Words of the Wise. So the first one I want to ask you is, when was the last time you tried something new?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I feel like I did it just recently. What did I do? I'm going to take up too much time thinking of that. I took a creative writing course at Berkeley. That was something I had never done before. And it was 2 years ago, I think, but that was something new. Oh, and I sang with a bluegrass band with a really dear friend of mine. That was something new. And I went to Yosemite, and that was kind of new. So I guess I did do some new things.
This one, it's actually an interesting question, but I want to hear your point of view. Disability. So what's the difference between living and existing?
Wow. I look at you, Keith. Living is going out and doing stuff, being part of the community around you, helping other people, experiencing life by getting out there and doing things. Existing, existing is just phoning it in. You know, you have a job that you go to and you come home and you just sit there and just let life happen to you. You don't go out and enjoy it. You don't go out and make things happen. But let me just be clear. Some people like to be at home and watch TV and relax after work, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not to be looked down upon. But there's something to be said for being an adventurer.
I agree. And this one, a lot of people always talk about in talk shows and TV shows. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be? For me, it'd be permission forms. So I've done that from the start.
I think advice to myself would be, don't worry so much about what other people think of you. You are not what they say you are. You are what you make of yourself. And so I've, as a young person, I had people that were mean to me, that told me I didn't know how to have fun, or I was stupid, or I was small. And I believed them. And that's what I would tell myself, is don't believe what other people say about you. Believe what you feel about yourself.
No, you're absolutely right. And this one, you are your own biggest enemy. You may have people come up to you and say, you're not this, you're not that. But as long as you can look at yourself in the mirror and smile, then you're doing the right thing. The reason I bring that up is, what's holding you back from being the person you want to be?
I actually think I am being the person I want to be. I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but I think the older I've gotten, the less I worry about what people think or how I might be perceived. And I just, as I grow older, I take more time to do things that I think are right. And I try and live a balanced life. So I really think I'm on the right track. I don't think there's anything keeping me from being a good person.
No, absolutely. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, why are you looking for something new?
Why am I looking for something new?
Yes.
I'm like, for what, a hobby? Help me understand, a hobby or something?
Most of these questions, I looked up these questions, are like questions you should ask during an interview. And this one's like, why are you looking for something new? And it's kind of like, because for me, you don't want to be boring. You always want to learn. You don't want to be stagnated. You just want to constantly learn. I mean, most of these questions are like you said, really good questions. And I'm thinking to myself, after I read one to myself, like, this is a stupid ass question. I should just cross that one out. But
No, it might be good for another interview. It might be a great question for a different person. Because I'm not really, I agree with you. I agree with what you said, though, Keith. It's always good to keep learning, never stop learning. And so if I were looking for something new, that would be why, because I want to keep learning. There.
Absolutely. Now, last question, how can our fans and viewers get in touch with you? Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? And what is coming up on the horizon for you?
I am on all those social media platforms. I also have a website. It's AnnRichardson.com. That's ANN, no E, Richardson.com. So you can visit my website, and there's a contact me form on there. I'm on, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And what's coming up on the horizon? I started a publishing company. I started an audiobook publishing company. And last year I published 4 audiobooks. And this year I have one that I'm working on. It's a really neat Swedish book. called Inlands, and I just licensed the audio rights to that, and I'll be recording that the first part of April. And I'm really excited about that book. So I'm not going big with that. I don't have the time to go big with a publishing company, but I can do a book here and there and kind of, learn something new, like we just talked about, and see if that's something I want to pursue. And if not a big deal. At least I tried it.
Absolutely. And hey, if you know anyone who's good in ghostwriting, hit me up.
I'll try and find some. If that's what you're looking for, I'll try and find some.
I do have a couple questions for you off the air. For anyone watching on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. If anyone who's watching on Facebook, hit the notification icon. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell icon. You'll be notified when brand new episodes and interviews will be ready and up and ready from the Keith Andrew Network. We have tons of great episodes and features. We're now actually streaming our episodes and sharing our episodes on LinkedIn and Twitter and any other social medias out there. Wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. I really appreciate you taking the time. And one thing I do want to say for everyone out there, especially you, June 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern, it's my 9-year anniversary. Make sure to write that date down, and I will see you there. Until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.